Whether you are a type A or type B personality type, we all tend to have this tendency of feeling like we're not doing enough. Whenever we accomplish a goal, the goal line keeps moving, no matter how much we achieve and how much we accomplish. Let's talk about what this is all about and what we can do to stop it and gain some of our mental health back. Let's get into it. I'm going to share with you 10 things you can do starting today. I don't mean like be an expert at it, but 10 things you can start working on today to kind of get out of this mindset. The first is redefine success. So we often tie success to a title or a dollar amount. Maybe we tie success to what other people think success for us should look like. No matter where you got your ideas of what success look like, have you ever really sat down and thought about what that looks like for you? And I think that is a crucial number one step. So have a seat, get out pen and paper, or just put it in your mind, whatever, and think about what it looks like for you. Forgetting everything everyone told you or what you were led to believe, what does success look like to you? What would you, at the end of your life, laying on your deathbed, flashing through your mind of what a successful life for you looked like? What is that? Let's define it. Number 2, take the time to celebrate yourself. Like I mentioned in the intro, when you're constantly moving the goal line, you're never taking a moment to breathe in the accomplishments you already made. Let's say that your goal was to get that promotion and you got that promotion. Now you're already just like, well, now I'm senior manager. Now I want to be executive, and then you get executive. Now you want to be CEO. You know what I'm saying? So it's like nothing wrong with wanting to continue to climb up the ladder, but when you do make that accomplishment, take time to really bask in it, celebrate it. Think about all the work that you put in to get to that place, and really feel proud of that. Because that's another thing. Sometimes when we get that thing that we worked so hard for, we're just like, yeah, but now I got to get this thing. Like you kind of brush off like that achievement you just made, and that's not really good for us. So yes, take time to celebrate yourself. Number 3 is going to piggyback off of number 2, but that is rest. So like I mentioned in number 2, by taking time to celebrate your win, also take time to rest before you even start working on the next thing. So like I mentioned in my example before, let's say your goal was to get promoted and become, senior, whatever, or supervisor of something. Take some time to just enjoy that role. Enjoy all the work that you put in to get there. Take a rest. Just be in that role before you start thinking about, okay, now I need to be assistant manager or, whatever. Like before you start working on your next big thing, just take time to bask in what you just achieved. Number 4, learn to say no. Learn what your capacity is. You've built a reputation for yourself of being this go-getter, being that one that can accomplish anything, being that achiever. So everyone's looking at you as someone who gets things done. And while that is an amazing reputation to have, you have to learn how to say no and know, while I can do all these things, I shouldn't do them because lack of time, lack of resources, spending yourself too thin, burning yourself out, not being able to put your best self forth in every project because you're involved in too many projects. So learning how to really put a cap on it and just say no. And the trick here is to also learn to be okay with that, because yes, we can say no and then later spend the rest of the evening and the next week and whatever just replaying that in our mind and feeling bad because we said no and now we're feeling less than ourselves. Okay, saying no doesn't make you any less great than you already are. In fact, I believe it makes you better because you know what you bring to the table, what your value is, and you need to be able to not spread yourself too thin so that you can continue to put your best foot forward in everything that you do. Next up, be productive, not busy. You may be thinking, well, that sounds the same, but if you've been in these shoes, you know that they are very different. You can be busy all day long, but what did you really accomplish? So the key here is to be able to minimize and really structure the things that you're doing to, one, get some of your time back, and then let go of all that little silly monotonous things that you don't really need to be doing to free up some of your time. And I fall victim to this all the time. But when you have a schedule, not every hour block, not every 30-minute block has to be filled with something. Be productive. Don't just be busy. Number 6, challenge your negative self-talk. This is another thing that isn't really our fault. These are things that we've been thinking since childhood, things we've heard from other people. things we've adapted from the way people react or the facial expressions they give when we fall short. And it's a normal thing. So whether you have a task that you weren't able to complete, whether you have an activity or a goal that you set out to do and you failed, whether you didn't have the time to do the things you thought you were going to do, or it's taking longer for you to achieve something that you thought you were going to achieve, no matter what it is, it's something that you have a negative association with because in your mind you failed. I challenge you to challenge those thoughts when they come up. So obviously we can't just sit here and write out all of things that we think and then try to challenge it. In that sense, we have to wait until those thoughts come up. And when they're there in our brains, we have to change the narrative, change the dialogue. So when you said you're going to have this done, and you didn't tell anyone this, but you told yourself that I'm going to complete this in 30 days. And on that 29th day, you're nowhere near finished. When that thought comes up that, oh, I'm so stupid, I'm dumb, I should have had this done by now. Why is it taking so long? Like, just change all those thoughts in that moment that they come up and change that narrative. It's like, it's okay. I've still made progress in this area. Hey, I'm not stupid, or hey, I didn't spread myself too thin, or I can still do this even though it's going to take a little longer. However, you need to adjust those phrases and change that wording. But I challenge you definitely to just change the negative self-talk and think more positively about yourself as a human being and your journey in this lifetime. I'm actually going to roll that into my tip number 7, which is to relieve yourself of those generational and societal expectations, especially if you come from, a low income or a minority type of environment, upbringing. You hear those comments of, you got to be the first to go to college. You got to be the first to break these generational curses. You got to be the first to build generational wealth. It's all this pressure for you to be the first to do things that your ancestors and the people before you were unable to do for whatever reason. That's a lot of pressure, and we don't realize that we're putting that pressure on other people. I'm sure our parents and people didn't think that either. They just wanted the best for us, and that's great. But when you're hearing that over and over and over again, you have this internal pressure of, I have to do these things. Even societal wise, you're told you got to go to school, you got to bear children and help with the longevity of the human life, and it's just all these things that are expected of you. So relieve yourself of all of that and really just sit down and think, what do you expect of you? What do you expect of this lifetime? What does life expect of you? What were you really sent out here to achieve in your lifetime here on earth? Figure out what you expect of you and run with that. Next up, prioritize progress over completion. Be comfortable with an incomplete task. Again, this is another thing. I'm speaking from experience here. I am this person I'm speaking of, but I have an issue with incompletion. If I set out an hour to work on something and at the end of that hour, I'm not as far as I thought I could be in this project, or maybe with another extra hour of work, I could be done. So now I extend it, and now I'm working on this project for 2 to 3 hours. If I'm reading a book and I say I'm going to read for 30 minutes, but then at the end of the 30 minutes, it's only like 3 more pages before I finish the chapter, I'm like, well, I have to finish the chapter. I can't just leave this incomplete. You get what I'm saying? So there's so many times in my life where I'm continuing to do something because it's just not complete. But that's okay, because progress is still progress. Even though, maybe I didn't finish that chapter in 30 minutes, but I still read it for 30 minutes. It's a lot of pages that I went through. Whatever project you were working on for an hour, sure, maybe you're not done with it by that hour, but you still worked on it for a whole hour and you got a lot of progress in that. So be more comfortable with just moving the needle versus needing the needle to be at the finish line, at the end of the journey. And this also helps you avoid or minimize your burnout, because again, if you were only going to work on this for an hour and now you're working on it for 2 or 3 hours, and at the end of that you're still not done, now there's 2 or 3 hours gone of your day, or of doing extra work that you didn't really need to do, just to still not be complete with that task. So now you're finding yourself busy all day long and still haven't really achieved what you thought you were going to achieve. So now you're going to feel burned out because you're spending all day doing stuff to try to complete everything in that day. As long as you're making progress in the direction of where you're trying to go, that is a huge milestone. Number 9, let go of to-do lists. And let me explain what I mean by this. So I actually recently just did this. I deleted my entire to-do list for 2 reasons. One, it's never ending. There's always something to do or that can be done, especially if you fall into this overachiever or high achieving type of personality. And number two, anxiety. Even if you're not actively looking at your list, in the back of your mind, there's 1,000 things that you want to do, need to do, should do, could do, whatever. So it's lingering in the back of your head forever. And I don't mean things that's like you actually need to do. I mean those things that is like, yeah, you want to do, but not right now. That could be something like learning a new language, reading that book that your coworker recommended to you, watching that TV show, taking that trip to wherever. Like there's things that you want to do and that you should start preparing for, but there aren't things that you need to do immediately. So instead of calling it a to-do list, maybe call it a wish list or a to-do when I have nothing else to do list. You get what I'm saying? So your actual to-do list should have no more, I would say, than 4 items. So when you're in the morning or before you go to bed at night, you're planning out your day for the next day or that same day if you're doing it in the morning, just have 4 things that you have to do today. No more than that. And let's say at the end of that day, you only finish 3 of the 4 things. Put that last one on the next day and then just add 3 more things. You know what I'm saying? So don't start your next list with 4 more items plus the one you didn't do yesterday. Now you have 5 items. You get it? Only ever have 4. So this one keeps you from burning out because you're only going to ever have just 4 things to do. And then let's say on the weekend or next week, after you've done all the immediate things that you needed to do, and now you just have all this free time, you can A, bask in that glory, enjoy not having anything to do, or B, now you can go to that wish list or that things to do when I have nothing else to do list and pull items for that. Maybe now you have time to start thinking about planning that trip. Maybe now you have time to pick up that book that coworker recommended to you. Maybe now you have time to watch that movie. So these things that you wanted to do with the free time that you didn't have, now that you have free time, now you can pull things from that list. What changes in that narrative is that it becomes optional. It becomes something that you desire to do, not something that you need to do. But when it's on a to-do list, you're looking at this list like all these things I have to do. But now you don't have to do them. These are things that you want to do. So I challenge you to give that a try. And you can even have multiple to-do lists. Maybe you have immediate lists. Maybe you have within the year list. Maybe you have within the next 5 years, and maybe you have, don't care if I get to or not, but it'll be nice to do these things. You get what I'm saying? So knowing what it is, again, just changes the narrative in your mind and relieves you of a little bit of that anxiety because you know what this list is and what purpose it's serving for you. All right. And my last gem for you today is to set realistic goals. Set realistic goals. I say this in a manner of time, whether that's for the day, for the month, or for the year. We tend to underestimate how much time something is going to take. And instead of realizing that, we go to the thought process of, well, maybe I'm just not managing my time well enough. Maybe I need to cut something else out to make up for this time that I need because something has to be wrong with my time management. And that's why I'm not achieving the things that I wanted to achieve when I want to achieve them. When in reality, we just don't really have a good grasp on how long something is going to take. So set realistic goals, set longer durations for things that may, or I'm not going to say because if you did know, you wouldn't set that goal. But instead of, once the month goes by and you still didn't achieve that thing, maybe don't say, okay, I'll give it another month. Maybe say, well, let me evaluate this and see how long this actually is going to take me. And then let me change my schedule a little bit and push it out a little bit more. Because again, life's not in a rush. We're in a rush. Do you really need to do this thing in a month? Maybe not. Maybe you can do it in a few months or 6 months. Now, it's different when you're at work and you have like deadlines and things like that. I'm talking about personal aspirations. And I always give this example that if you give someone 30 days to do something, they'll take the whole 30 days. But if you take them 3 days, they'll get it done in 3. And this is very true. There have been several examples of myself as well where I set a goal in January to finish by December and I didn't start it until November and I still got it done. So it really only took me 30 days, but I gave myself the whole year to do it. You get what I'm saying? So this is a tricky one, but regardless, I just want you to be a little more realistic with your time frames and what you are allowing yourself to do in said period. This is personal because someone else might, be a stay-at-home mom, or not even a stay-at-home mama. They could just be a stay-at-home person, and they have a lot more free time on their hands than someone that's working 2 or 3 jobs. So this person might be able to achieve a lot more in a month than this person will be, even though they're working on the same thing. So you have to know what's realistic for your lifestyle, your time points, and things like that. What are you willing to give up to work on this? Because with the example I gave about waiting until November to to do something, the reason I was able to get it done in 30 days is because everything else that I was doing throughout the year, like learning a new language, or maybe taking some other course, or hanging out with friends, I might have cut all that out and just focused for 30 days to get this thing done. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you have to pluck things out to shorten your time frame. And again, do you want to do that? So this is custom. So really think about what you can do with the time that you have and how you want to lay out your day-to-day in order to achieve the things that you want to achieve. Comment below what your favorite tip was. That's all I have for this video. I hope these 10 tips help those high achiever, overachieving personalities out there. If you did like this video, you know what to do. Give me that thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. Share this with someone that you know has that kind of personality. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next video. As always, don't forget to crush it.